Live. Alright, welcome to Rocket Mod Launcher Live 2023. This is pretty exciting. It is very neat to see you all here, although our audience is a little small at the moment. I am very excited to share with you all the great news that we have coming for Rocket Mod Launcher this month in July of 2023. And I hope you are excited to see what Rocket Mod Launcher will have to offer. So for today's session, we will go ahead and do just a little introduction of who I am, what Rocket Mod Launcher is, how you can get involved with it, and then from there we're going to be moving on to essentially discussing how Rocket Mod Launcher is going to revolutionize the video game modding scene by utilizing automation and ease of use. And then the last thing we'll be doing is a Q&A to answer any questions that you may have regarding Rocket Mod Launcher, and also just to shed light on anything that you feel might need to be clarified with it. Alright, so the first thing I'd like to mention is that get involved with Rocket Mod Launcher. Rocket Mod Launcher is an open source, community-driven project, and by becoming involved with it, you can learn how Rocket Mod Launcher works at a much deeper internal level than what you might be used to just using it from a user perspective on the surface level. And by getting involved, you can also help to shape the future of modding by contributing to the Rocket Mod Launcher project, which is on GitHub, and it is super exciting when new people come to contribute to open source projects. It's really inviting and really exciting for all of us. And if you'd like to get involved, go ahead and contact me on Discord. I will put my tag in the announcements channel on our Discord server, which I will be getting to next. So if you haven't done this already, spread the news. Rocket Mod Launcher thrives on community involvement, and one of the ways that you can essentially, let more people know about what Rocket Mod Launcher has to offer is by sharing the invite link from our Discord server settings. Anyone who is watching this presentation live is in the Discord server at the moment, which means that you can go ahead and do this yourself if you would like to. And just go ahead and spread around to any fellow modders and developers you might know. Get more people on board, involved with it, so we can help make the future of modding better for everyone. So let's go ahead and introduce myself. So my name is Pear, and I am a game and software developer and graphic designer, and I am the sole developer of Rocket Mod Launcher. The idea for Rocket Mod Launcher came around a few months ago in November of 2022, and I was commissioned to essentially make a tool that would allow for modding an infinite number of games. And well, here we are. It's turned into a reality, and ever since I have been continually maintaining the project and have been updating it since its debut. And today's session, again, will focus on how Rocket Mod Launcher will help to automate the process of modding, which includes the auto merge feature, as well as helping to make modding easier for everyone. So, as you know in modding, there are many big forces that are propelling it forwards in today's modern world with video games and VR and augmented reality and all of that. The first thing is the normalization of video game modding. Decades ago, video game modding wasn't really as big as it is now, whereas now you see people modding left and right, and new people are coming in all the time. So it's a very exciting and interesting field to see grow and flourish. And of course, the use of modding tools is rapidly increasing. As you may know, in terms of the Elden Ring community, as an example, modding tools were very sparse at the very beginning. Of course, there was DS Map Studio and Yapt, and a few other things like Flivver Editor, but there were many tools missing, and now here we are with essentially a full-on pipeline to modify behavior and physics and lots of other aspects of the game. And of course, mod merging is here to stay. Mod merging is never going to go away. It is kind of a staple in every gaming community, including, Skyrim, Little Big Planet. Communities such as those thrive on mod merging, and it's a really big market that we need to be able to tailor to. And of course, the biggest force, and the one that is sort of driving Rocket Mod Launcher forward, is the fact that there is more demand than capacity for scalability. As you know, being able to create a solution that is able to mod multiple different games is quite difficult in itself. It's almost like this fake reality. It's like a dream that might never come true, but Rocket Mod Launcher is here to make that true and to make that a reality. So, what is Rocket Mod Launcher's proposal to this? Well, obviously these big forces, need big solutions. The first thing is making modding accessible for everyone. If modding is only understood by a very small amount of people, including myself, developers, programmers, maybe some artists, then it's very niche and it becomes very difficult to market it to more people and to make modding more expansive. Right? We want modding to advance. We don't want it to stay how it is currently and never develop forward. We also want seamless integration with other platforms, including Nexus Mods. Nexus Mods is one of the biggest modding platforms in the world out there, and unfortunately, Nexus's mod launcher, Vortex, is a little bit limiting in some respects. As you might know, using Elden Ring through Vortex is a little bit troublesome, and it's the same for a few other games. So Rocket Mod Launcher aims to integrate with platforms such as Vortex in order to make those platforms better, more expansive, more flexible, and overall more accurate. So things like easily merging mods without conflicts can become true. And again, this goes back to the idea of, well, how is that ever going to be possible? Merging mods for multiple games, that's like a dream. That's an unspoken truth. But the thing is, it is definitely possible with a little bit of ingenuity and innovative thinking. And of course, the modding ecosystem needs to be adaptable to any game. Like I said before, there are so many mod launchers out there which are specific to certain games, but we need to make modding accessible and adaptable to every game. So this way it expands just beyond the pillars of, Elden Ring or Skyrim. So the first big point we'll touch on here is, of course, scalability and efficiency, which Rocket Mod Launcher is able to address really well. So the first thing with Rocket Mod Launcher is obviously the user interface. Any of you who have used Rocket Mod Launcher have already become familiar with it, but if you haven't, this is just a very basic overview of the interface within the software. As you know, in just the surface level aspect of the tool, you have, a search bar for searching for games and mods. You have a bar for adding tags, so you can essentially fine-tune your search results. You have the ability to sort mods by and games by date modified, author, date published, name, etc., and you can also filter them. So, for example, which games and mods do I have downloaded, favorited, enabled, disabled, and which ones are launchable, right? And over here, this is the sidebar. The sidebar is obviously a work in progress at the moment, but whenever you click on a game to view the mods for that game, you can see it shows a little icon in the sidebar for the icon associated with that game, and then the name of the game. And then when you're in the games library, it of course just says games with a little D-pad. And of course, Rocket Mod Launcher allows you to easily access all preferences within the launcher through this little settings button in the bottom left. And then each mod and each game in the launcher is represented as a card with rounded edges and an optional image. Yes, a game and mod can have no image, so if you're a developer on the back end and you're adding in your own games and mods, you don't have to assign images right away, because if you don't, they'll just show a default image in the place of their cards. And these cards are very useful because they allow you to interact with them by just simply clicking them, right? So you can click on a card while looking at its status to say, oh, okay, if I click this card, right, and it says download down here, that obviously means when I click it, it's going to download that mod, as an example. And of course, any additional options you can access through the hamburger menu on all of these games and mods. Games also now have hamburger menus to access things such as tags. Now, one of the big philosophies of Rocket Mod Launcher is that you need to be fast in order to go fast. And really the idea of installing mods should be as quick and painless as possible for the user. If the user is struggling to, to see where to go, and, maybe their internet isn't the best, but Rocket Mod Launcher ends up throttling that even more, that becomes really frustrating, right? So the infrastructure of Rocket Mod Launcher should be built for speed, and it of course is. We're still resolving some things with our backend servers because at the moment we use Dropbox for distributing games and mods through the launcher. And eventually we will adapt our own content delivery network, or CDN, so that way things are a little bit easier for users who may have quote-unquote spontaneous internet. Because I have received a few reports that Rocket Mod Launcher occasionally does, spike during downloading, and it can cause stalls and whatnot. So we're just know that we are addressing that, and we are looking at that. And of course, user interface affects navigation, right? And therefore, speed. If the user is trying to find a mod, or they're trying to, look for the mod that they want, and the UI is all over the place, cough cough, Vortex Launcher, then obviously it's going to become a little bit strenuous, and it's also going to waste time for the user. As you know, modding is a very fast-paced thing. You have to be able to mod games quickly in order for people, especially content creators, to kick out content quicker. And if they're spending 10 minutes trying to figure out how to integrate a mod with a particular game, say Elden Ring, that becomes really annoying really quickly. So to illustrate this, I'll just go ahead and showcase a video of the installation process in Rocket Mod Launcher for those of you out there on YouTube or any other platform who may not know how it works. So as you know, you click on the game you want, it loads the mods, and then you can download any mods that we offer in the launcher by clicking on them. And then to update them, if they have updates, you simply just click them again, and they will update to the latest version. So you always get the latest mods available at any time. So as you can see, we're downloading Elden Ring Reborn at the moment. And then once it's done updating, you can see it's downloaded. And it shows you its toggle status. So is the mod disabled or enabled? And then for Elden Ring, we have the Mod Engine mod, which is installed automatically with Rocket Mod Launcher. So then you would just use Mod Engine to load up the mod, to load up Reborn. See how it's enabled here? And then once you've done that, you're all ready to go. No additional steps required. So it's as simple as that. Now, of course, in the launcher, one of the unique aspects is the fact that you're able to add your own local mods. Vortex, I believe, also allows you to do this. I'm not absolutely sure, but I'd imagine it would be a little bit frustrating to use. Now, why is that? It's because adding local mods for a variety of games each game is going to be, very different from each other in many different respects, including how they structure their mod folders. So to sort of start this off here, with a local mod, you just give it a name, right? You can name it whatever you want. In the example in the presentation, you can see we're adding a seamless co-op for all of you Elden Ring players out there. So in the name box, I've just named it Seamless Co-op with a hyphen. Again, you can name mods whatever you want. And then the second field is where you enter a mod folder directory. Now again, because Rocket Mod Launcher is non-game specific, this means that every single mod sort of follows a similar type of structure. So for toggleable mods, the directory structure follows the idea of, okay, we have a root folder, right? That root folder then contains all of my mod files and folders. That's it. It's that simple. And launchable mods omit the root folder, so you just have mod files and folders. The reason why launchable mods omit the root folder is a little bit technical and a little bit complex. It basically has to do with directory nesting, so we won't get into that. And then, of course, if you wanted to, you could set an optional mod image, so that way you have visual cues in the launcher when searching for local mods. And of course, if you would like your mod to be launchable, you can set the launch executable path to be launchable instead of toggleable. As you know, tools such as ModEngine, Elden Mod Loader, Emu Lite, all of those for Elden Ring are launchable mods, right? So you want to be able to just click on them in the launcher to access them directly instead of toggling them on and off like content mods. And that reminds me, at the very end, you have two checkboxes. You have the Use Shared Toggle Macro checkbox and the Should Favorite checkbox. The Use Shared Toggle Macro checkbox essentially defines whether the local mod you're using or that you're adding into the launcher will use the game's shared toggle macro. And that may sound a bit weird, like what is a toggle macro? That sounds foreign, that sounds very strange. Well, later in the presentation we'll get to that. For right now, just know that a toggle macro essentially helps a mod to toggle properly for any game, not just Elden Ring, any game. And again, it may be a little bit confusing, like, oh, when do I turn on a toggle macro and when do I not turn on a toggle macro? That is essentially defined by the game's tags in the launcher. So the tags will be able to tell you, okay, these types of mods will allow you to have a toggle macro, and these other types of mods will not, right? And then obviously you can favorite mods. Rocket Mod Launcher puts favorited mods at the very beginning of the launcher, so this way they're easier to find and locate. Alright, before we continue here, I am going to go ahead and do a quick intermission, so I will be right back in roughly 5 to 10 minutes. So if you can, just hold your breath. If you need to go do something, go ahead and just leave for now and come back, and I will be unmuted in the VC and will provide you guys with a little sort of a ping when I return back. So here we go, intermission time. Alright, I have returned. I apologize for the inconvenience. Alright, let's continue from here. So, Rocket Mod Launcher, as you know, is a non-game specific mod launcher. I've reiterated this multiple times, and because of that fact, that means Rocket Mod Launcher can support a wide variety of games. And that also means that its games library is essentially infinite. And as a result, the games library will continue to grow exponentially over time as more people come onto the platform and they request mods for, their own favorite games, right? And that means the possibilities are essentially endless. And the more games that we have, the more modders and mod players alike there will be supporting Rocket Mod Launcher, meaning an increased amount of community support and trust, which will give Rocket Mod Launcher a better sort of reputation and image in the online modding space. Now, this is the exciting part of the presentation where we get to discuss the auto merge feature that is going to be implemented in Rocket Mod Launcher hopefully by the end of this month. So this is indeed the fabled feature that everyone is talking about. Essentially, auto merge is going to allow people to automatically merge two mods which were previously incompatible to make them compatible with each other and work in-game. Now, with respect to Elden Ring specifically, there are many types of content mods, right? Like, there are mods which focus on animation changes, there are mods which focus specifically on model and texture changes, and then there are mods that focus on lighting, right? Like, lighting readjustment throughout the game. And all of those mods, if you have many mods that, for example, take two of those attributes. So let's say you had one mod that took animations and models, and then you had another mod that took models and textures. Well, what do both of those mods have in common? Both of them modify models. And then, if you try to use them together, they're obviously not going to work, because in order to make them work, you have to merge the character files, right? Or the part files, or whatever you're dealing with. So the way Rocket Mod Launcher works with handling merged mods is it uses a manifest to track metadata for games and mods within the launcher. And each merged mod entry is essentially going to reference both a source and a target. So, as you can see in this little image here, we have Elden Ring Dark Moon, which is an overhaul mod for Elden Ring, and then we have Sykes Moveset Mod Pack. So the source is going to be Dark Moon, and the target is going to be Sykes Moveset Mod Pack. And this way, merge mods can then be treated as single units, meaning, a merge mod just is another mod in the eyes of the launcher. And this means that merge mods can then be traversed recursively. And recursive data flow allows for a very clean mod relationship hierarchy to be generated and used efficiently, which is very important because this needs to be able to work for an infinite number of games, right? So doing it this way is a very simplistic but effective approach. Now, to sort of elaborate on this, game-specific merging operations within the launcher are going to be performed with what are called merge macros. As you know, there are plenty of mod launchers out there, such as Vortex, which essentially implement their own scripting language, which then allows other people to say, hey, I want the launcher to be able to, have this functionality, XYZ. And then they can just simply write a script, and then that script can be interfaced with Vortex to implement that functionality. In the case of Rocket Mod Launcher, it's a similar scenario, but we don't have a custom scripting language. Because in order to make that happen, you would obviously need to write a language, which would include registering all of the assembly instructions, writing a decompiler, a compiler, and yeah, we're just not gonna get into that. So, Rocket Mod Launcher essentially treats macros as executables. They're just compiled executable files which are called externally from the launcher, and they run in an unmanaged environment. And while this may seem a little bit, vulnerable in terms of security, the launcher at the moment is, specific to only a few select developers. So the launcher is fairly safe and, closed at the moment because it's likely that none of those developers are going to upload a virus or, some sort of malicious script that the launcher will then be able to call. Because at the moment, I'm the sole developer, I have jurisdiction over all of that, so it's very unlikely that that would happen. But in the future, it would definitely be useful to implement a custom scripting language. Now, merge macros obviously are going to contain game-specific code that will describe how to merge files. This is where it gets interesting, because a merge macro can essentially handle merging, in the case of Elden Ring, for example, for character files, for regulation bins, for part files, for FFX BNDs, all of those different file formats a merge macro can handle. And the best part is that you don't end up implementing that functionality into the launcher, as in hard coding it into the source code, which makes it much easier for the launcher codebase to, number one, be cleaner, and second of all, the launcher is able to fulfill its purpose of supporting an infinite number of games, because the codebase stays relatively small, relatively clean, and all of the nasty game-specific code is handled by macros. Now, if you're not aware of how Rocket Mod Launcher sort of handles this on a surface level, let's go ahead and dive into how Rocket Mod Launcher handles macros. So, as you know, with Elden Ring, and I'm showing Elden Ring as an example because most people watching this presentation are coming from a background where they have modded from software games and titles before. So that's why I'm using Elden Ring in this specific instance. So this right here would sort of be your standard, clean structure for when you first install Elden Ring, and when you also get Elden Ring unpacked with a software called UXM. I won't go into detail about how that works, but essentially it will unpack all of the compressed files in the game and make them accessible to any modders or developers out there. So the first thing that happens when you actually open up Rocket Mod Launcher is it installs a toggler program. So if I go ahead and boot up Rocket Mod Launcher here, you can see it's loading up. And when it finally gets to the games screen here, you can see this is the games library that I mentioned before, as well as in the sidebar. And if I go ahead and click on Elden Ring, you'll notice on the surface level it seems like it's doing nothing, but it's actually installing the mod toggler silently. And just like that, there it is. The mod toggler is right here. Now, what does the mod toggler do? Well, in the case of Elden Ring, the mod toggler essentially handles registering content mods, as in mods that are specific to Mod Engine 2, within Mod Engine 2's config file. So this means now that when I go ahead and, for example, download, let's say, Shattered, right, which is a Elden Ring mod, content mod. So if you let this download here, just give it a quick minute. Alright, here it is. And as you can see, by the way, the mod downloaded fairly quickly. Again, this is another reason why Rocket Mod Launcher is very useful. A lot of other platforms, such as Nexus, throttle their download speeds, and they make it very difficult to, access mods quickly. So Rocket Mod Launcher just makes that process much better and smoother. So now what will happen is if I go ahead and get the config file used for Elden Ring for Mod Engine 2 open in here, right? This is the default config file, right? It has the default mod entry in here. So what will happen is when I click this mod, it is going to go inside of the game folder here, and it is going to execute the mod toggler. And what it does is it passes in the name of the mod and a few other pieces of information, so that when it's toggled on, the mod toggler says, okay, let's toggle this mod, so now it's enabled. So now if I go to the config file, boom, Shattered is now in there, right? Now, if I deleted the mod toggler from the launcher, right, if I deleted this, that means any mods that are toggled from this point forwards, when they're downloaded, any content mods, will not be registered in the config file, because that toggle macro handles the process of registering mods inside of the config file, at least in Elden Ring's case. For other games, it's obviously going to be a bit different. When I was modding God of War a few months ago, we actually created a mod toggler to do a similar thing, where we had a config file somewhere in the game files, and we needed the toggle macro to add information to that config file. But the best thing about macros is that they're not limited to just, for example, modifying files. Macros can do anything. They can delete files, they can add files, they can move files around. So again, the possibilities are endless. And while there may be some, security, questions floating about here, Rocket Mod Launcher in itself at the moment is the most secure that it can ever be, because we have such a small number of mod developers who are contributing by adding their own mods to the launcher. So again, it's very unlikely that anyone is going to take advantage of this. But like I mentioned before, implementing a custom scripting language is probably going to be a good idea to prevent incidents in the future. Now, the launcher, additionally, like I said before, also uses a manifest file. So as you can see when I downloaded Shattered, you can see it set the status flag. So status means it is enabled, which is true. Its version, it keeps track of all of your mod versions, and it remembers if the mod that you're installing is favorited or not. So as you can see, Mod Engine is favorited, and it has a little star icon in the top right. And if I, get rid of that, then it modifies the file and gets rid of that star property. It's now false. So the manifest file, this is how it's going to handle all of the merging magic that will eventually come to Rocket Mod Launcher. All right. So I think that is all that I have for this live presentation. So if you would like, go ahead and unmute yourself in the VC if you'd like, and ask any questions if you have any about the launcher, anything you'd like me to clarify, and I will go ahead and answer those right now, and then we should be on our way. So any questions from anyone that I can answer? Let's see. VC chat. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, alright. Yeah, so I'm just reading the chat in the Discord server right now, so we can go ahead and answer some of these questions. Yeah, not a lot of people came to the presentation today, but that's all right. So yeah, Dropbox. The reason why we're using Dropbox at the moment is because of the fact that when the launcher was first sort of pitched, the guy that was essentially managing the project idea, he kind of enforced and demanded that Dropbox be used for the CDN because that's what he had used for a lot of other projects. Yes. And so because of that, that forced me to kind of use Dropbox, and we didn't really have any other alternative. Now, before that, I did suggest that we use a dedicated CDN, such as Cloudflare or Amazon Oz, right? Because both of those options are very good content delivery networks, and they do their job fairly well. You know, they're fairly lightweight, and of course they're very secure. They're used by many different companies and projects out there for hosting files and hosting metadata and information stuff. So that sort of answers that aspect of why the CDN is Dropbox and not what it should really be. So does that answer your question? Yeah, would you be able to elaborate on that? Yeah, because Rocket Mod Launcher is technically its own solution now. Yes, yes. So, yeah, we are planning on adopting an actual CDN in the future. I'm probably not going to be setting my sights on that this month, though, because we have the auto merge feature that needs to be implemented. So that will probably be something later down the line. I'm also hoping that, you know, more people, not just myself, will contribute to the Rocket Mod Launcher project, because I believe there is a lot of value in it, and I think if people could see that value, it would really help development in that side of things be a lot smoother, because implementing features right now is fairly easy, but it takes time, right? And so I think just having more developers would definitely make things better for me, at least. Yeah. Any more questions that we have? Oh, yeah, and also, yeah, I apologize for the 16 by 9 aspect ratio. If any of you who are watching are struggling with the aspect ratio, I apologize for that. I will make sure that does not happen next time. All right. Well, I think we are ready to go ahead and, yeah, end the live session. All right. Well, again, thank you all for coming. It's been great discussing Rocket Mod Launcher with you guys. I hope you all are excited about the new features that are coming this month, especially the auto merge feature. And I am intrigued to see what Rocket Mod Launcher will bring and offer later this year in 2023, and also hopefully at the end of this month moving forward. So take care, and all of you have a great day or night wherever you're living in the world, and yeah, see you.